In this week's dividend news, we're looking at 47 different companies, 3 with dividend reductions, 8 special dividends, 4 proposed dividends, which are being initiated, 6 companies with share buybacks, and the rest are all dividend increases. We're going to start right here with TK Tankers, and they have actually announced that they're starting a quarterly dividend as well as offering a $100 million buyback after a record Q1 profit. Next up is Yellow Pages Limited, who's raising their dividend by 33.3%. The forward yield is 4.67% ex-dividend date May 24th with a pay date on June 15th. Euronav announced this week a proposed dividend of $1.80 for each share that you own. The payout's going to be a combination of a dividend and mainly a repayment from the share issue premium. The ex-dividend date is June 1st with a pay date on June 13th. Bunge Limited has announced a dividend increase of 6% with a forward yield of 2.96. Ex-dividend date is August 17th with a pay date on September 1st. MarketWise has declared its first ever quarterly dividend of 1 cent per share. The forward yield is 2.41%. Ex-dividend date May 1st with a pay date on July 20th. We've got a 1% increase in the dividend from Cardinal Health, forward yield of 2.35%, ex-dividend date June 30th with a pay date on July 15th. Caribbean Utilities Companies is raising their dividend by 2.9%. The forward yield is 1.17, ex-dividend date is May 31st with a pay date on June 15th. Osisko Gold Royalties is raising their dividend by 9.1%, forward yield of 1.04%, ex-dividend date June 29th with a pay date on July 14th. First Merchants is raising their dividend by 6.3%, forward yield of 5.38%, ex-dividend date June 1st with a pay date on June 16th. Independence Realty Trust is raising their dividend by 14.3%, forward yield of 3.73%, ex-dividend date June 29th with a pay date on July 21st. We've got a 5.3% increase coming from Curtis Wright this week, forward yield of 0.49%, ex-dividend date June 15th with a pay date on July 5th. Sandridge Energy has declared a special dividend of $2 per share and also plans an ongoing quarterly dividend of 10 cents per share starting after the second quarter 2023, which is going to be first payable in August of 2023. And also, they've approved a $75 million stock buyback program. CSP is raising their dividend by 33.3%, giving them a forward yield of 1.29%. Ex-dividend date is May 24th with a pay date on June 13th. Propel Holdings is increasing their dividend by 5.3%, forward yield of 4.56%. Ex-dividend date's May 16th with a pay date on June 7th. Another company initiating a dividend this week is Converge Technology Solutions, and they intend to pay 1 cent per share quarterly. Forward yield of 1.15%. Ex-dividend date is June 8th with a pay date on June 16th. Arc Restaurants is raising their dividend by 50%. The forward yield is 4.17%, ex-dividend date May 30th with a pay date on June 13th. NBH Holdings is raising their dividend by 4%, forward yield of 3.73%, ex-dividend is May 25th with a pay date on June 15th. Artesian Resources is raising their dividend by 2%, forward yield of 2.07%, ex-dividend date May 18th with a pay date of May 26th. Diversified Gas and Oil is raising their dividend by 3.1%, giving them a forward yield of 14.78%. Ex-dividend date is August 31st with a pay date of September 29th. Carrot Packaging is offering a special dividend to its shareholders of 35 cents per share. It'll go ex-dividend on May 22nd with a pay date on May 31st. Another special dividend was announced this week from Clear Secure, which is going to pay 20 cents for each share that you own. We have a 7.5% increase in the dividend from Apollo Global Management, forward yield of 2.78%, ex-dividend date May 19th with a pay date on May 31st. And the first of the reductions this week comes from Paramount Global, who announced a cut of 79.2%. Forward yield remains at 1.18%, ex-dividend date is June 14th with a pay date on July 3rd. Armada Hoffler Properties is raising their dividend by 2.6%, forward yield of 6.37%. The ex-dividend date is June 27th with a pay date on July 6th. ON24 has announced a special dividend in the amount of $1.09 per each share, and this special cash dividend is part of the company's previously announced $125 million capital return program. So they expect the remaining $75 million of capital return to be effected through a combination of an accelerated share repurchase program and/or market purchases. The goal for completion is Q1 of 2024. Fortitude Gold has declared a 4-cent special dividend for its shareholders. The ex-dividend date is May 19th with a pay date on May 31st. As announced by the chairman of the board at Clear One, there were some recent successful legal settlements that have generated surplus cash for the company. So they're going to share the surplus with the shareholders in the amount of $1 per share. Russell Metals is raising their dividend by 5.3%, forward yield of 4.7%, ex-dividend on May 26th, with a pay date on June 15th. Information Services is increasing their quarterly dividend by 12.5%, forward yield of 3.6%, ex-dividend June 6th, with a pay date on June 30th. Lots of news coming from Devon Energy this week. For one, they've announced a 72-cent fixed plus variable dividend, and they're expanding their buyback plan to $3 billion. Well, we're a little late to the party on this one, but Sound Financial Bancorp has announced an 11.8% increase in their dividend, but it went ex-dividend on May 9th. But for you shareholders, you're going to get a nice little increase in your paycheck on May 24th. Alpha Metallurgical is raising their dividend by 13.6%, forward yield of 1.36, ex-dividend date June 14th with a pay date on July 5th. NAPCO Security is actually initiating a quarterly dividend of 6.25 cents per each share that you own. The forward yield is 0.91%, ex-dividend coming up real quick on May 19th with a pay date on June 12th. Cabot is increasing their dividend by 8.1%, forward yield of 2.24%, ex-dividend date is May 25th with a pay date on June 9th. PacWest Bancorp has announced a 96% decrease in their dividend. The forward yield is now at 0.69%, ex-dividend date was on May 12th with a pay date on May 31st. But Marriott raised their quarterly dividend by 30%, forward yield of 1.2%, ex-dividend date is May 25th with a pay date of June 30th. Ashland has announced an increase in their dividend by almost 15% at 14.9, forward yield of 1.77%. They're going to go ex-dividend May 31st with a pay date on June 15th, but in addition, they announced that they intend to commence a new repurchase of up to $100 million of its outstanding shares. Sun Life Financial is raising their dividend by 4.2%, forward yield of 4.69%, ex-dividend date May 30th with a pay date of June 30th. We've got a 25% increase coming from CES Energy Solutions, forward yield of 4.27%. Ex-dividend date is June 29th with a pay date of July 14th. While there's no change to the quarterly dividend that Marriott Vacations is offering its shareholders, the board of directors has increased the remaining authorization to an aggregate of $600 million and extended the repurchase authorization through December 31st of 2024. Forward yield of 2.32%. Ex-dividend date is May 24th with a pay date of June 8th. We've got a 20% increase from ESAB, forward yield of 0.4%. Ex-dividend date is June 29th with a pay date of July 14th. Hamilton Beach Brands is raising their dividend by 4.8%, forward yield of 4.15%, ex-dividend date June 1st, pay date of June 16th. We've got a 7.7% increase coming from Werner. They have a forward yield of 1.25%, ex-dividend date June 30th with a pay date of July 19th. We've got an 8.2% increase coming from Penske Automotive. The forward yield is 1.9%. Ex-dividend date is May 19th with a pay date of June 1st. And the board just announced an additional $250 million in authority to repurchase the company's outstanding securities. Vinci Partners has announced a decrease in their dividend by 5.9%. Forward yield of 7.96%. Ex-dividend date is May 24th with a pay date of June 9th. Sandridge Energy has declared a special dividend of $2 per share, plans a quarterly payout of 10 cents per share, and the board has approved a $75 million stock buyback program. And if it's helpful to you, I'll link to this spreadsheet below so you can take a peek at all the companies that we just reviewed, and I'm starting to do this week by week so that you have access to all this information along with those ex-dividend dates and the pay dates. Now go and take a peek at this video next. It's dropping their divvies. They're dropping. You don't want to be privy to the droppy divvies.